Black cisgender heterosexual identified men are killing Black trans women. Black ones.
We are not talking about it in the church.
Those street guys are already engineers. If they're mixing drugs and stuff together, they're chemical engineers.
If you're just like, yeah, let's kill 50 cops just because, that's only a fraction of the Black people that they killed. Wait, now you're talking about my wife.
For those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there.
When I think of financial literacy, I just don't think of the classroom work. I think some of it is practical application.
I'm scared, especially, calling them to arms, talking about poll workers or poll watchers. That is rooted in history of voter suppression and intimidation.
Joe Biden needs to make that a part of his educational platform.
Call that shit out.
I don't see much value in you speaking in tongues, and yet when you speak in English, you don't say nothing for my people.
Many of the reasons why we're dying is because of the conditions we live under that cause our health to be so bad, and that cause it's the food, it's the water, it's clean that shit up first.
Their fathers have prostate cancer. I had like 150% chance of getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer. I had a friend that did a raw vegan diet, 20 years remission, had thyroid cancer, never had surgery. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
This week in Black People Shit, Black Money, Sex, and Relationships. I'm your host, Christy Ferris. With the recent spike in breakups and divorces due to the COVID-19 pandemic and an economic collapse that is putting an extra added stress to people's relationships, many people don't know if their relationships will survive this epidemic. Today, we have with us author and relationship strategist to talk about these three topics, or all of these topics that we have going on. As usual, we have with us actress Janora McDuffie and writer Abdul Majid. Hello, everybody.
Hey. You look so pretty, Christy.
Thank you. I haven't put my lips on yet. As you guys know, we are shooting, and I have my mask and making sure, because I don't want anybody to get mad that I'm not covered up, but I know you said it's a little muffled. I'm having a blast.
Janora's shirt matches your wall, and your shirt matches Janora's wall.
We planned it. We absolutely planned it that way. Yep.
Yeah, I can tell.
I think we always kind of match.
You do. You two actually all kind of match.
Hey, great minds think alike,
well,
right?
There you go. And I have to say thank you to all of you guys. You guys held down the show. And I know it'll go back and forth. The next minute, somebody else is going to be working. But I just love the fact that, we have a team. So I appreciate you while I'm shooting.
Team.
I just want to make sure you remind Yay. And I am shooting Monogamy Season 3, which is on All Black. Used to be UMC, but it's now All Black. But I want to make sure we remind everybody, please like and share, subscribe, which is, make sure you guys jump on to the This Week in BPS side of Facebook and YouTube. So let's jump into our guest today is a relationship expert who uses common sense to teach people how to leave toxic relationships and how to find their soulmates without wasting time on the wrong person. Blair Nash shares perspectives on why you keep attracting disrespectful suitors in your dating life. In less than 4 years, Blair has authored 2 successful books with over 15,000 copies sold worldwide and has logged over 2,000 hours conducting one-on-one and group counseling sessions for men and women. Please welcome to the show, Blair Nash.
Hey, thank you very much.
Blair.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Welcome, Blair.
So, I just want to say one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure we had you on the show is, listen, I'm always looking at your relationship columns, and he'll have like 400 comments. Somebody says something crazy like, this is what my man did, and blah, blah, blah. And your fans go ham. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows they should definitely be following you. So, but before we get on to you and what you do, we want to talk about what is trending. Before we get into the relationship stuff, we have Tiger Woods, who got into this crazy car accident. What are your thoughts about that? And I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you want someone
Go
else to go? That's fine. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go Blair. Go ahead, Blair.
I would just say he is. It's almost like he has the worst of luck with everything. I mean, going from starting all the way back from his divorce like 10 years ago, to the back issues, to the arrest I think he had maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, to more back issues, and now this. It's just like he just really can't catch a break. So it's unfortunate. Tiger being the legend that he is, being the icon that he is, when I heard about it, I was like, wow. And initially I thought it was just kind of like, oh, he had an accident and, a couple scratches, couple scrapes. But, then when I found out that he was, damn near close to death, it was like, wow, this is something. And then I think, it kind of made me kind of harken back to the feeling that I had with Kobe when he passed. I mean, when I heard that day, I mean, I was shook all day. All I did was just sit on the couch and just look at TV. So, it's just unfortunate. It's just a really sad set of circumstances. And like I said, it just seems like it just kind of keeps going every couple years. It's like something. So, we're going to pray for it. I mean, in my opinion, I was just going to say, from what I've heard, in my opinion, I think his golf career is done. He was already kind of struggling as it was, and now to have this on top of it, he's done. So unfortunately.
It was a little difficult to hear that or to see that happen and think about Kobe at the same time. Janora, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with you, Blair, that brother has had some tough breaks, but he's always seemed to come back. So I hope his comeback game stays consistent and strong too. I know now it is a little tougher to come back at, I don't want to say at this age, because shucks, I never want to put that out there for someone. So I'm just happy he's alive, not just for the world of golf and all his, but also for his family as well. I'm not sure if you guys caught him and his son playing golf together. It really made him human, kind of in the same way that talking about Kobe, in the same way that seeing him as a father made him more human. So like you, I'm happy he's okay. Go with the comeback game, and if that's not the case for his future, then his next chapter as a dad. My wife said that she would love to see Tiger come back as his son's caddy down the road, maybe when his son is playing professional.
I love that. How about you, Abdul?
Yeah, I agree with Blair. Kobe doesn't do well in SUVs. Got his ass whooped in an SUV. First accident was in an SUV. This accident was in an SUV. So, I mean, the thing about this one, so here's the good and the bad. The good part was that it was a single person accident, meaning no one else got hurt, and he survived. They were able to use the jaws of life to get him out the car, being the accident was that bad because he rolled over several times. The bad part about it is that Blair and I, before the show, were talking about basketball, and athletes have an expiration date. And even though golfers have a longer expiration date than most because it's not physical wear and tear, he just had some pins and a rod put in his leg. So he has to recover from that. And he's going to be on a downturn of 40. He'd be knocking on 50. Now I know there are other players who played on 50, but his whole thing was his legs and his swing. He had strong legs and a really strong back, which he hurt before, which is and his core, which is made him have like one of the most amazing swings ever in golf. And I think this leg incident, is being the fact that he just came back from a knee injury or like 2 knee surgeries not too long ago. I think I'm with Janora. I think this would be a good turn to start looking on the other side and helping those the way other people helped him in their career. And I think that the way Kobe did, being this is Kobe Day. So yeah, I agree with that.
Well, jumping in now to Kobe. Today is Kobe's day. This is what they name, today's being the 24th. We can briefly talk about that. I know we talked about that last week, but what are your thoughts on that? We'll start with you, Abdul. I know it was a big deal for you.
Yeah, like I'm with Blair again, man. It was like that day was like I grew up literally watching Kobe play since high school. I'm from Jersey. He's from Philly. I used to get the feeds to his games. So I literally watched him high school all the way through the end of his career and beyond, because he stayed a media person after that. So, you know, it's like, it's tough as a Black person, as a Black male, specifically an American Black male, to just make it out of anything in this country. To make it unscathed, to not get thrown in jail, to not get, you know, all the things that happen to you living this life that we have to live, that's accused of such. And he got a chance, the opportunity, not to only make it out of his 20s, which a lot of us don't get the chance to, but he became a dad, he was a father, he was an entrepreneur, he was hope to a lot of people, he encouraged so many people. And to see another Black man go down in his prime, I think that's really the roughest part about it. It's not the basketball thing. It's to see just another Black man go down in his prime for some, you know, for whatever circumstances.
Well, I didn't even think about it from that perspective. That's a really good point. Like, it wasn't like he got, you know, because our next subject will be about Ahmaud Arbery, but Ahmaud getting killed by the police, and here Kobe dies of an accident, you know, and Tiger could have been in that same space. How about you, Blair? Yeah, how about you, Blair?
Kind of like kind of like he said, you know, just, you know, I always say to my wife, you know, one of the challenges that I think is kind of hard about a lot of our entertainment idols is they always die in a strange way. You know, when you look at Michael Jackson, when you look at Prince, when you look everyone, not everyone, but a lot of them just die. They don't die like, you know, well, he was 84 and, you know, it was time. It's like he was, you know, 48 and this happened, or he was, you know, in Kobe's situation, I think he was 41, 42 and this happened. So it's just unfortunate to just kind of only see them die young. What's that?
So Sam Cooke was 32.
Sam, yeah, just everybody, just Gerald Levert, on and on and on down the line. Everyone kind of dies young, dies in kind of a strange, you know, kind of some strange circumstance. So it's just unfortunate.
Donny Hathaway.
You know, Donny Hathaway, exactly. You know, Marvin Gaye, all of them just kind of have some, you know, odd story that happened of why they were killed or died. And it's just really sad, because at 43, I mean, you still got, God willing, half your life to go, right? And so it's just unfortunate, you know, not only to see that his wife and his kids don't have, you know, their father anymore, but to the fans who, like you said, you're from Jersey, Kobe's from Philly, people who just idolized and just watched Kobe, you know, when he was younger, and it's like, man, this dude is magic. He is something special. And then to just, you know, one day wake up and all of a sudden, what happened? It's just, I mean, it's just gut wrenching. And so, like I said, like you, Ahmaud, I mean, I was, that day, it was just a blur. I just felt numb. I didn't want to talk to nobody. You know, my wife, she was fortunate, and she just kind of was like, you know, they're there. It's, you know, it's going to be okay. But yeah, I was rocked by it. So it's unfortunate.
How about you, Janora? And right now, just for the ones who might be joining in, we're just talking about today being Kobe Bryant Day. So go ahead, Janora.
And that's the only unique thing I wanted to add to the conversation, is that technically it's Kobe and Gigi Day today. And so just want to recognize that he wasn't the only one that was lost, but the significance of it being 2/24, as in February 24th, 24, of course, being Kobe's number, and 2 being Gigi's number on the court on her youth team. So that's all I got to add up. The only other thing would be, hey, Thornton, hey, Kendra, and hey, Anthony, welcome today.
Yay. And then, so we're also not celebrating, but just it's the year anniversary of Ahmaud Arbery being killed by the 3 men. What are your thoughts about that? It's a little tough. I know that the mother is also going to sue. So we'll start with you, Janora.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, that was pre-George Floyd, remember? Like, that was the kickoff to, well, not even the kickoff, the continuation, but a strong staple in this whole continuation of realizing the state of the world. That's the nicest way I can put it without pulling out some 4-letter words to refer to how backwards things continue to be in this country. It is a shame that no charges have been, no, wait, not charges. I want to make sure that they have not been tried yet. Is that correct? I want to make sure.
Tried. They haven't been,
Yes, they don't have a trial date yet. So, and it's been a year.
You think of COVID.
It's because of COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they say. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
How about you, Blair? And then we're going to jump into some relationship stuff after this. So go ahead, Blair. Your 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't buy the COVID thing because we've tried Trump twice. So if they really wanted to get it in, they could get it in. That's to me, that's a little thin. But neither here nor there. Very sad scenario. Like you said, that was kind of, I don't remember exactly what month that was, but that was kind of right before everything kicked off with George Floyd. And, then, and I'm having a brain freeze. I can't remember the gentleman who was in Atlanta where I think it was in front of a Wendy's or something. Yeah. And the officer.
Rashad.
What was it?
Yeah, I think his name was Rashawn. Rashawn or Rashad.
I think it was Rashad. Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of like this systemic thing where it was, Rashad Brooks. Exactly. Thank you, Jamin. Rashad Brooks. It was just kind of like this. It was just one after the other. So on top of COVID and everything else that was going on last year, it was, I mean, and like you said, to think that here we are 12 months later and they haven't even, gotten into a courtroom and said, okay, let's see what this is about. It just really makes you look at the justice system sometimes and say, what are we doing? This man was killed, and here we are a year later, we're still talking about, trying to set a court date. And it's, I mean, sometimes the U.S. justice system is just repugnant. And, yes, we all love being here. Nobody's trying to necessarily leave the U.S., but a lot of times you look at kind of the way that we deal with us as a people, and specifically justice system moves along, and how, the bureaucracy of it makes it move so slow. You're just like, what are we doing? So, yeah.
Abdul, anything you want to say before we jump into these relationships?
I will leave right there.
I honestly I'm just used to it. I go back beyond all of this stuff. I mean, even last week or September, they just charged the 2 officers. They're just talking about the 2 officers who killed a black man for jaywalking in California in September. And now they're starting to talk about it because all the video came out as of a day or 2 ago. The guy just being harassed for jaywalking, and they shot him twice. I go back to from New Jersey. I go back to Amadou Diallo, and I go back to what was the woman's name in Atlanta, who Eleanor Bumpers in New York. And so there's just a long history of black bodies piled on one another over the exact same cause, and people telling us that we're crazy to believe that there's something wrong. So,
well, let's move on to some relationship stuff.
That sounds like a great idea.
I think so too, because I really want to make sure that we get into this book. And,
yes.
I'm really excited about that. So we're just going to jump into a few of these. Before we get into your book, I want to say Kanye and Kim are getting a divorce. Kanye is he's going to stay in his Wyoming ranch. Kim is planning on moving to Miami. It looks like that they're agreeing on a prenup. Everything seems to be okay. They seem to be on good terms. What are your thoughts of relationship king, Blair?
I will say honestly, Kim finally got smart. It's long overdue. Kanye has been, and I'm just gonna say that, and pardon me, he's been acting an ass for a long time. The way he said, the things that he said about blacks, about us as blacks, the things he's just been off the chain for a while. And I don't know the depths of how, I mean, I know they said he's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I don't know exactly how, how that's, how, I don't know if he's really got, gone to, counseling, or if he's still on his meds or whatever. But I do know that it's long overdue. You have the children to worry about, and you have all these other, other kind of, moving parts within the marriage. I in my opinion, and I, I'm going to, take a little bit of credit. I was one who said years ago, this wasn't going to work out. When you have someone, Kanye is kind of one of those people who is just, to me, it seems like he's real high and then real low, which is, of course, the textbook definition of bipolar disorder. And the fact that he doesn't seem to kind of really be able to harness his emotions, especially in a marriage, especially when you're talking about he's an entertainer. I called it a long time ago. I said, this is not going to work. That it's just not going to work. I mean, it's interesting, for a while for headlines, but for it to be in, marriage. I mean, now that they're getting a little older now, I think Kim is 40. Now she's like, I want to kind of calm down. I want to kind of, get a little bit more, fluid with this marriage thing. And, Kanye's still kind of way off the Richter scale right now. So it's unfortunate. Nobody wants to see a divorce, but I think for the betterment of Kim as a person, and I think also for Kanye in a way, it's the thing that they need to do. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Briefly, do you guys have anything to say, Janora or Abdul? I had to touch on the last two subjects real quick and into the book.
I do not.
We'll just do like little 2 secs.
Oh yeah, I'm saying I don't. I want to get to some good stuff with Blair. I don't want to talk about Kim more. or
okay. You got something you need to say?
I'm on the other side. Yeah. I believe this is a good thing for Kanye West. The Kardashians been stacking up black bodies like the police. So I'm better. I think Kanye is better off.
That's yeah.
Lord have mercy. Okay. I was like, okay, all right. So
Abdul,
let me just touch on how about?
I was gonna say that new Kanye
Go ahead, Blair,
gonna be something.
Yeah, it's gonna be fire. It's gonna be fire.
Man, it's gonna be something.
Okay, let's jump right quickly into Dr. Dre's divorce. What are your thoughts about that, Mr. Blair?
Man. Let me just, I don't want to say that. Boo to Nicole. Let me just say that. I think she's handled this completely wrong. Dre, I don't know all the details, and who will know all the details as far as like what really led to the divorce. The fact that she did what she did and was trying to kind of pursue the divorce when this man is barely clinging to life. The fact that she wouldn't say, you know what, let me put, the politics of this aside and everything. This is currently my husband, and let me go in there and be by his side. Now, when he gets well and home and good and everything, we back to it. But right now, I'm gonna go be by his side. And the fact that it was, she was like, bump the fact that he had an aneurysm, forget the fact that he's almost dead, and just kind of, charged forward and still was, about the money. To me, that kind of showed me the individual that she was. I mean, in a divorce, both sides do something. I'm a coach, and I talk to people all the time. And, a lot of times people think, well, he did this and this and this and this and that, and they kind of leave out other parts of things that they did. So I know that there are things that Dre did. I'm not going to sit here and paint him as a choir boy. We know he ain't been that for a long time. But sometimes I think your humanity has to kick in, and you have to go and say, you know what? Let me put all this aside. Yes, our situation is dysfunctional. Yes, our situation is toxic. But let me put this aside for a moment and go and be a good human and a good wife to my husband, who is clinging to death right now. Right. And so that really showed me kind of the levels sometimes that a person can go to, when money's involved. Yes, there's millions and millions of money, dollars involved, no question. But at some point, you just got to say, you know what, we'll get back to that. You know, even if you got to say to my lawyers, hey, stay on it, but I'm going to go over here and be by his, be by his side. So it really was kind of like, man, who did he marry? But,
right.
Hopefully we'll see what happens.
Abdul, did you have something?
No,
I'm sorry. I think my internet's going out a little bit.
No, just look at the history. Well, they both had horrible histories. She was married to a guy when she started dating him, and he has a history of being a little handsy with women. So, either way, it's bad all around.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So, did you want to
Yes,
add
I did.
real quick
Yes,
before
I did. I had been trying to sit here with the straight face this whole time. Lord have mercy. Again, now just want to give a quick shout out. Hello, Tori Overton, Little John. Hey, Tim. And hey, Kimberly. Yes, I'm gonna be Miss McPetty over here. Ever since I watched Dr. Dre on, what was that, Miss Chalet story, Surviving Dr. Dre?
I knew that was gonna come up.
You knew that was gonna come up. And as it should. I completely have a different view of him. I don't know what their relationship was, but if it was anything that Michelle went through, I will pray for you from afar. I will cash my $2 million a month check, and I'm gonna call it a day. You made your bed, Dr. Dre. And then I apologize.
Let me ask you this though. Wasn't that like 30 something years ago?
I don't know the timeline, but it doesn't matter how much time. If it was as toxic as what I can think, as I can imagine, let's just. I'm gonna pray for you, and I'm gonna cash my check. Thank you.
You got a kid with Suge Knight,
right?
And so I'm saying, if we're talking about character, let's not feel like her character is the cleanest either, because she has a history too. So if they're both dirty, don't tell me about two dirty people acting dirty towards one another. Like, I'm just saying.
Well, at the end of the day, what is the relationship that they have now?
Yes, and clearly it's still quite messy. But that's why we've got Blair Nash on the show to lead us into the light.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, if it was something that had happened, maybe. If it was something that maybe happened a couple years ago, I could say, well, we need to take, Dre's a trip. But let me ask you this, and this is a rhetorical question. Any of us, myself included, I don't think any of us would want someone to take our resume from 30 years ago and say, this is kind of an indictment against you. You'll never be able to move past this, whatever you did, whether you were, juggling women and lying to men and doing whatever it might be. Nobody wants their resume pulled up from 3 decades ago and say, this is how we think you are today. Right?
That's fair.
Again, like I said, I don't know what Dre is doing right now. I don't know if he's, there's always rumors that he got, side women or whatever. That may be the case. We don't know. We have no way of proving that. But what I'm saying is, and I agree with you, what he did was awful. I saw the Surviving something movie. I forget what it was called. The Michelle movie. I saw that as well. But to take that and use that as an indictment against Dre from something he did back in the day, I mean, I think I can speak for any of us and say 30 years ago or even 20 years ago, we were probably doing things that we don't want nobody mentioning. So to now use that. What's that?
No, I said that there's definitely some truth to that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's awful. He shouldn't have done that, and he should, whether it was then or whatever, he should have paid his penance for that. He should have, whether he went to jail or paid a hefty fine or whatever it was, he should have been dealt with. No, or even if it was street justice. But now he's like, I'm moving forward. I'm moving on, and to take that and keep kind of bringing me back to 1991 and 1992 and keep putting that in my face as though that's who I am now is unfair. I wouldn't want anybody doing that to me. I wouldn't want someone saying, well, Blair, back in 2001, this is 2021, right? So you have to kind of say, do we allow a person growth and transformation? Do we allow a person, to be able to have mistakes in the past and have a long resume of not doing those things. And, you know, again, like I said, I don't know what, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Again, there's a little bit of a delay. So sometimes, sometimes I think you're finished or somebody's finished and they're not. So my apologies, but I do want to make sure I ask the question. How, I'm in a crazy building. Why do people continue to keep getting in toxic relationships? Why do they keep seeing the same patterns over and over and over again?
Are you asking me specifically?
I am asking you specifically. We are now talking about your look.
All right, no worries. A lot of it, I will think, boils down to self-love. And I know that sounds very simple to say, but self-love kind of has different branches of where you speak to your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-value. And a lot of times, like, you know, of course, like I said, I'm a dating coach. And one of the things that I talk to a lot of my clients about, you know, I talk to women and they're like, you know, well, when did you notice the relationship was going bad? Oh, it's been going bad for a couple of years, but I stayed. Well, what made you stay? If you say you have these options and you're, you know, there, well, because you know, he taught me, he said all these wonderful things and et cetera, right? And I say, well, part of that goes back to your self-esteem, because if you had the self-esteem to say, you know what, I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to deal with the fact of you disappearing and I don't know where you are for 24 hours. I don't have to deal with the fact that I found condoms in your gym bag. I don't have to deal with the fact that I hear all these different stories about these women, right? And if you had the self-esteem to say to yourself, I'm going to, you know what, this is not something that's like a circumstantial thing. I have the evidence. I'm bouncing tonight. If you had the self-esteem, you do. And so what that goes, again, that goes all the way back to what I say about self-love, in that a lot of our women, because their value is steeped in what people think about them and what people say, you know, they don't have the self-love. They don't have the self-worth that will allow them to say, you know what, there is absolutely no way I'm going to be in this bad situation. There's absolutely no way I'm going to let this be toxic, you know, for a while, and I'm not going to do something about it. And so, yeah, I mean, whether it's, you know, whether the situation is Nicole, or even going back to the situation with Miss Chalet, you know, because I think with both of those situations, with Suge and with Dr. Dre, she stayed. When they were beating on her, she stayed. And so you have to say to yourself, you know, she was an attractive sister. What would make her want to stay? And a lot of it has to do with self-love. You know, do you have the esteem and do you have the self-worth, the self-value to say, I am going to leave this situation the moment I see that you are being, you know, not being dysfunctional, because that, you know, but the moment that I see that you do not value me and that you are being toxic, you have to leave. And so many women allow themselves to stay for months and years with men who are toxic, men who beat on them, men who cheat on them. And, you know, by the time that they finally do leave, now your entire self-esteem is wrecked. So that's it.
I have a follow-up question for you, Blair. So I know we all are guilty of staying when we should have left, right? And that's with men or women, just pointing out that we are an all-inclusive show here. And also in that context of staying, when do you determine if somebody deserves a second chance? And when do you determine, like, no, this is the end of the line? Like, how do you know if it's I'm getting out of here, or we are all human, we're all trying to do better, let me see?
Right. I think, you know, that's a very good question. I think it has a lot to do with, does the person have a track of actually doing the right thing? And I'll give you an example of kind of a job, right? If you have a job and you know, the first 2 weeks you're there, you're late 4 times. They're going to fire you. They are going to fire you. They are going to terminate you on the spot, right? But if you've been with your job for, let's say, 5.5 years, right? And maybe some things are going on. Maybe, your car's messed up, or maybe, your wife's car's down and you're letting her borrow your, and you end up being late. Your job is going to work with you. Your job is going to say, this is, this isn't Blair's, way of doing things. He's usually pretty on point as far as being here and being punctual, right? So you have to look at the situation and say, does this person have a track record of actually being faithful, being honest? If you get into a relationship and almost immediately that person starts cheating, you have a problem and you need to leave. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact of, even when I talk to clients, when they say, well, such and such cheated, I say, well, I ask a number of questions. Did the person come to you and say, this is what's been going on? Or did you have to find out? Number one. Was this a one-time occurrence, or were they basically in a second relationship where they were going and doing things and going to dinner and going over this person's house? What was the situation? And then the other question is, how long has this been going on? Excuse me, not how long has it been going on? How long have you been together? And have you been able to see a consistent, consecutive way of them being honest and faithful to you? If you can't, now you got to say, well, what are you banking on? What are you basing the fact that they're actually a good, honest person? What are you basing this on? Because if you're just saying, well, I love him and I'm hoping he'll do better, but you don't have any sort of resume to show that he's actually done that, now you got to say to yourself, is this really worth it? So that would be my answer.
I got a question about the self-love part of it. So, hoes and sluts, right? When I was growing up, my aunts and I'm dead serious. No, hold on. This is a legitimate question. I'm going someplace with this. My aunts and my grandmother
I know it is.
would always tell the kids, leave them fast girls alone. And they would always tell my sisters, leave them thugs and leave them street boys alone. You don't need to be messing with them people. And nowadays, that seems to be the preference. And that seems to be sort of what
they go to, right?
So is that a self-love thing, or are we just old and in different times and we need to let that go and allow people to express their sexuality the way they choose to, as opposed to these other times where they were being called hoes and sluts and scallywags and skios and pop-offs and what have you?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Well, I will, and that was to me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll take the women's side first. Do I see it as a lack of self-love? Yes. One of the things that I talk to women about often is the fact that, and I don't know what the numbers are specifically right this moment, but I think we're covering somewhere around the range of about 84% of Black households are run specifically by a woman. A woman is the one who is the breadwinner, and she is the sole provider for that household, which basically means 84% of our young Black men and women are growing up in a household where there's no real consistent, hear the word, consistent male authority in the home, right? So what happens is as you start to be in your formative years, especially as a woman, like I said, I'm talking about women specifically on this one. As a woman, you need to have your father, your mother's fine, but you need to have your father pouring into you on a daily basis, giving you assurance, giving you validation, giving you affirmation. And if you don't have that, what's going to happen is you're going to get to 18 and 20 and 23 years old, and you're going to start seeking that affirmation and that validation from the internet, from bad boys, et cetera, because daddy wasn't there to teach you the fundamentals and the basics of how to actually properly vet a man. He wasn't able to do that. So yeah, a lot of it does fall back into the line of self-love, because your esteem isn't there and your value is there. And so a lot of times what you see with a lot of our women is they will they substitute the fact of having respect from men, and they say, well, I don't care about the respect, I just want the attention, right? And so they'll post photos and they'll dress provocatively and do all these different things, not understanding actually how men operate. Men kind of operate on a, and I don't want to say it in a kind of a graphic way, but men will pretty much sleep. If we think you're cute, we're going to try and get at it, right? The threshold for what we will have sex with is very low. The threshold of what kind of woman we want to get with is extreme. And this is where I think a lot of women miss the mark, because they don't understand that just because I tell you you're fine, and just because I tell you how thick you look and all these other things and how I would want, it doesn't mean anything if I'm not putting some action behind it. And so women fall into this trap of always having men just tell them, oh my God, you're a queen, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, without understanding that you have, if you want to get a quality guy, then you're going to have to kind of put that aside and not be worried about getting oohs and ahs and likes and everything on IG and Facebook. But in order to do that, you have to have a strong male presence in your life who's going to tell you these things, because, and what happens with a lot of our women is by the time that they finally figure it out, you've had dusty Negro after dusty Negro play you, finesse you, and everything else, right? And so now you're 26, 27, 28, maybe even 30, and all these guys have just ran through you and made all kinds of, fake promises and everything, and you're like, guys ain't jack. No, there's a lot of good guys out here, but you have to position yourself and strategize yourself in a way that those type of men will see you. And those type of men who are quality men don't want to see women who are flashy and on the internet all the time and always showing themselves and being provocative. Men, as a rule, I tell my wife this all the time, men as a rule are two things. We are patriarchal and we are traditional. We want a woman who we can look at and say, she always respects herself. She doesn't put a lot of flashy photos up on social media. She's not trying to be the center of attention, etc. That's how most quality men are. And so, I kind of down the road a little bit, but it is a lack of self-love that a lot of our women have.
So let me just catch everybody up. We have Blair Nash, who's on, has a couple of incredible books. I am on set, Tangerine, so I have to have my little mask, all of that good stuff. And I keep looking and turned off my camera just to make sure that they're not looking for me and needing me right now. So that's a lot of great information. I think. Janora, would you like to read some of these questions that are on here? I want to make sure that we address them.
Would. All right. So this is from Thornton. How much does power, money, and the proximity to those things affect the decision to leave? I've always heard that women are more attracted to alpha males, and so they allow them to get away with just about anything in a relationship. What say you, Blair?
True. Yeah. That's was it Thornton? Very good question, Thornton. Yes. Obviously the more assets and resources that a man has, the more that he's able to get away with. Excuse me. That's pretty standard. Power, money, influence. These are the things that are exotic to women. The idea that a man has, he's influential and he can do things and he has money and power. The women thrive on that. And so, the guy that, has, like let's use Dre, for example. The man that has Dre type of money is going to get away with a lot more than your guy who makes, $15 an hour. That's just kind of a given. The fact that if a woman, and I'm talking about as a collective, not every woman, but as a collective, if Dre comes and he's, you know, out until 12 noon the next day, you know, he you know, she's like, well, wait a minute, I'm up in this, you know, $4.5 million home, and you know, we got 8 exotic cars outside, and you know, all this money in the bank. Do I really want to mess up because he was out late one night? And so they start justifying and thinking to themselves, well, you know what, I won't do it. And then it happens again. And so then it happens again. And this is where women start to kind of, now it becomes an issue, because she's like, you're making me look like a fool out here. So yeah, a man who has, who's, you know, an average guy would not, you know, be able to get away with those type of things. So yeah, the fact of men having privilege and influence and money and all those things, they definitely weigh heavy. It definitely weighs heavy in their favor as to what they can get away with. So that's very true.
All right, we've got another question from Joseph. Joseph asks, do you believe that most women lead with their emotion, choosing who their partner will be?
Absolutely, they do. You know, there's a saying that very good question, Joseph. There's a saying that I have a lot, and you know, people who follow me will probably, like, he says that thing all the time. I have a saying that women fall in love, men walk in love. Women have a tendency to look for a partner who makes them feel special, makes them feel a certain sort of way. Obviously, he has to have, you know, something going on. He has to have, you know, some sort of, you know, decent ambition about himself. I don't think a woman is just going to say, well, you know, he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have a job and whatever, but I like him. Those are the extreme examples. But yes, women pretty much lead with their emotion and how a man makes them feel when they think about a long-term partner. Whereas men are more typically practical and logical. They look at, you know, does this make, you know, financial sense? Am I in a spot right now? And this is something I even told my wife, you know, if everything were to fall apart, and I mean, you know, let's just say worst case scenario, let's say she got extremely sick and couldn't work her job. Your family will look at me and say, Blair, what you gonna do? They're gonna look at me specifically. And so I have to make sure that I position myself in the right way to say, you know what, if something happens, I got us. We're gonna be okay. So yes, women definitely look at the emotional aspect of, you know, how he makes me feel, the things he says to me, and, you know, the way he looks in my eyes and all these other things in regards to how they look at a long-term relationship. Whereas men are typically more, you know, practical in their execution of relationships.
Thank you for that answer. I just want to give a shout out to Christy Ferris.
Yay!
Hey,
all right, you guys, I have to jump off. I have to go back to work. So I will definitely see you. Thank you, Blair. I know we're going to talk about your books next. I wish I could stay on, yes, but I got to go to work. But I'll see you guys a little bit later. And Tim, I saw your message. You're so sweet. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye, Christy. Knock comes in. And just in case y'all are wondering, Christy and Tim could be featured in Blair's book.